So I'm going to go into this process of checking brand approval for Amazon in bulk. And before I actually break down the steps, I'm going to show you a quick diagram just to give you an idea of the overall process. Basically, you have suppliers, and from suppliers, you can get a list of brands. I will then take that list of brands and bring it into a Google Sheet that I created. And from that Google Sheet, I will then get a list of ASINs matching those brands. Then those ASINs will be fed to the restriction checker, which is an app that I'm going to show you. And from there, we will then get a list of the ASINs restrictions, as well as the permissions, meaning what we're allowed to sell and what we're not allowed to sell. Those ASINs restrictions will actually be brought back to the same Google Sheet, which also does an additional job of taking these ASINs restrictions, and it's going to then create, in the end, approved brands over here. Okay? So this diagram just shows you the progression. It shows you, what data we're getting and where we're putting that data and the results that we're getting, right? And in the end, we get a list of approved brands that we can sell on Amazon. So that is the overall, and then these are the individual steps. Now, the first step, we're going to jump right into it and do it right now, is to get a list of brands from a supplier. So first of all, here's a supplier, which is Zoro.com, and you can find a brands link at the bottom of Zoro.com. Just using Zoro as an example, there are many other suppliers, and they also have brands lists on their sites as well. And there's a huge list of brands here. I have already scraped those brands into a Google Sheet. So there's a list of these brands right here. There's 500 plus of these brands right here in this Google Sheet. There's a link for you to get a copy of it. Now, the next thing, step 2, is we're going to take these brands and bring them right into the Google Sheet so we can get a list of ASINs. Okay, so it's not a long process, but the first time that you open a copy of the system, you're going to get a copy. So the link is in the description of this video. When you get a copy of any of my systems, you're going to have to make a copy because it's my original copy, so it's going to be view only. You can't edit my original. So what you're going to do is go to File, Make a Copy. So you create your own completely separate copy on your Google Drive. You click on Make a Copy, and now you're going to have a completely separate copy. All right, that is how this works. Once you've made that completely separate copy, there's no point in having this original open. You can close it, and it just goes away. You haven't saved it or anything, right? It was just something that you opened, you made a copy of it, it's gone. Okay, now you have your completely separate copy, and you still have this list of brands. Now, the brands, you can also make a copy of the list of brands. You can do that also. But actually, I don't need to because I'm only going to copy them, right? I'm not going to edit. So I'm going to copy these brands, to select them, I'm going to click this first brand and go Control-Shift down. And that's going to copy all of the brands. Okay, then I'm going to take all these brands and bring them over to my system, and I will simply right click and paste these brands. Okay, so although I do have a copy imported brands and an import brand sheet, you don't really have to use it. It's just there in case someone wanted to do that, but all you need to do is just paste the brands, copy and paste the brands into the sheet directly. Is all you need to do. Okay, now let's go back and just make sure we know where we are on the steps. Okay, you got a list of brands from a supplier, which I was able to scrape and provide to you as a Google Sheet. You were able to input those brands into my Google Sheet system, right? And now we have to see if we can get a list of ASINs. So by the way, I should have said this before, if you want to follow along and actually do this, it's a good idea to go ahead, get the list of brands, go ahead, get the system, and then you can actually, do this with the video as well, right? So now what you want to do once you've done all this is you're going to click on Get ASINs. Okay, Get ASINs, well, what's going to happen is the first time you click on any of these buttons, okay, it's going to ask for authorization. This is not an error. Some people think it's an error, but it's not. This is just what happens when you run a script on Google Sheets. So you're going to click on continue. Google forces you through this process, and you have to click through it. Okay, you're going to select your account. They're going to say they haven't verified this app. Don't let this alarm you. Understand, you have to understand the language. They're calling any kind of script that a person writes on their Google Sheet an app. But if you think about it, millions and millions of users, many people write scripts. Of course, they're not verifying or checking every script that every person writes. So of course they haven't verified it, right? There's nothing unusual about that they haven't verified, your work, right? Or someone's work. So I'm going to go ahead and click on advanced and continue only if you understand the risk. Trust developer. I do trust them. I'm going to go to, which is myself actually, I'm the developer. I'm going to go to brands search. That's the name of the script behind it, and I'm going to click on allow, and it's going to go ahead, and now I'll be able to use the buttons. Okay, so I did show that process in this video for people who haven't done it before. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on get ASINs, and it's going to go ahead and pull ASINs of all these different brands. Okay, so we pull the ASINs of all these different brands. Okay, now what's going to happen is it's searching the web and it's finding at least one ASIN for these brands. You only need one because we're not actually trying to find products. We're just trying to find an ASIN that represents the brand. The purpose of these ASINs is to represent the brand when we upload it to the next step, which I'm going to explain in a second. Now, just for the sake of the video, I'm not going to do a lot of these. I'm not going to let it keep going, so I'm actually going to stop it. But when it does stop on its own at some point, which it will because Google scripts only run for so long, you can just click wherever you are, current location, click get ASINs again, and it will just continue. From that point, it will continue to get more ASINs for you, okay? But I'm going to actually stop it. And what I then suggest, since you're going to have some gaps in it, you're going to go ahead and do A to Z on that, okay? Understand that these gaps are not necessarily permanent. It does not mean that it will never find an ASIN for this brand. It means it did not find one in that moment. So what you're going to do, sort this A to Z, because we don't care about the order of the brands. We just want to get a list of ASINs right now, okay? We have no particular favorite brand right now. So the next thing is that we need to generate a list of ASINs. So I'm going to go ahead and click on generate ASINs list, and all that's going to do is take these ASINs, which are basically in a list already, but you do have some that stick outside in other columns. So it's going to bring them together in one straight list together, right? So that we can have it in the right format, okay, that it needs to be in, okay? While it's doing that, just actually, it's done, right? The script might keep running, but I can see that it's done, okay? So let's just take a step back. I'm going to bring this over to here, all right? What we did, we just inputted the brands in the Google Sheet system, and we were able to get a list of ASINs. Now we're going to do step 3, which is now we have to upload the ASINs into the restrictions checker. Okay, it's very simple to do. This is Seller Assistant app. They have what's called the bulk restriction checker. And if you don't already have this, I've shown it a lot in my videos. It's very useful for product research. I have a link in the description of this video. You get a deal through the link. Go ahead and use the link to sign up and start your trial. And that way you can see how this works, right? So I'm going to go to upload ASINs on this restriction checker, where now I can upload a list of ASINs. So I'm going to go and get my ASINs list and copy it, okay? So I'm going to click on the first one, Control Shift down, and then I'm going to copy, okay? Control Shift down is what I use to select the whole thing. And now I'm going to go to Seller Assistant app, paste all the ASINs in here. Description can be whatever you want. I'm just going to put Zoro brands. You select your marketplace. Mine is Amazon.com, and then you click on upload. Okay, so now those Zoro brands, the request is created, And sometimes it might be ready, but you'll have to refresh in order to see if it's changed. But also they will email you. Okay, you will get an email at some point saying that it's ready. All right, so that is the next thing. Okay, now I'm going to refresh it. Okay, and I do see that it is ready. And so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and click on download, and that will download the file onto my computer. So now the thing is, unfortunately, it's not a CSV, and it really should be, but it's not. It's an actual Excel file. So now there are different choices. If you have Excel, you can open it in Excel, copy, and paste the data into to where it needs to go. But if you don't, you can also just upload it into Google Sheets. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to take this file and I'm going to upload it into Google Sheets. So we're actually going into the next step, which is we actually just downloaded the ASINs restrictions, and now we're going to import it to the Google Sheets system. So to do that, what I'm going to do is go to the Google Drive. So I'm going to go to my email, click on this icon, click on Drive to open my Google Drive. And what I'm going to do is click on New, File Upload, so that I can get this file uploaded. All right, and it's restriction data right here, this file. I'm going to click on Open. All right. And that will allow me to open it in Google Sheets, and I can open it. Okay, this is how you can open an Excel file on Google. Now the reason I did that is so that I now have the data here, and I need to get this data, restriction data, into my Google Sheets system. And really, I don't have to use any fancy import methods or anything like that. I'm just going to go to the restrictions over here, sheet. This is the Google Sheet system I'm on, by the way. Go to restrictions tab, and then I'm going to go get the restrictions and just copy and paste them. So I'm going to actually just select the whole thing. I'm going to click column A, drag over to column B so I can select the whole thing. This is actually in the same column, so it's fine. I'm going to right click copy. So I'm actually copying the whole thing, and I'm going to go over into the restrictions sheet on the main system and just paste it. Paste all of that restrictions data in here. What's going to happen when we go back to the main sheet, brands to ASINs, is you're going to see that what it's doing is it's using the ASINs, okay, to relate the brands and the restrictions data, because the restrictions data, don't forget, is provided as ASINs, not as brands, right? And then it gives allow to sell, approval to sell. But what this is doing is it's saying, well, these ASINs came from these brands, so it's tying all three together. The brands, the ASINs, and the restriction data is all being pulled together in this Google Sheets system, so that now I'm able to see the brands, okay, results. So this brand, PROTO, it comes up that one ASIN, allowed to sell. Why do I see a 1 here? It means that one ASIN, which there's only one ASIN anyway, is allowed to sell. All right, usually you're either allowed to sell or you're not. So either it's going to be green on this side or that side. But every now and then you get some brands that have multiple ASINs. Not often, where one ASIN is approved. I did get a brand like that where I had one ASIN, group of ASINs were approved and a whole bunch of ASINs weren't approved. All right, and it was a little strange, but mostly it's either going to be on the approved side, approval required side. This means you don't have approval to sell here on the left, or it's going to be green on this side, allowed to sell. Okay, so let's take a look at this brand PROTO where I'm allowed to sell that brand. Okay, and this is just to prove a point. I'm going to go here, PROTO, and just type in the name of that brand. Let's see if I can even find products of that brand. Okay, Proto. Select a condition new. I'm able to sell it. When you see this, it means you have approval to sell that product. Right? Here's another one, PROTO. Right? So this is the point. I really only needed one ASIN, which was this ASIN. Okay, to know that. And I'm actually going to check this ASIN and see what it is. Okay. Let me actually see what this ASIN is. Okay. Right. And, you know, this might not even been a good product for the brand, so maybe it's just coincidence that it worked out. And this is the thing. It's not gonna always be perfect, but most of these, when I check them, let's check the second ASIN, it will be an actual proper product, right? You see, this is a Makita. Okay, let's take a look. Makita, right? So the brand is Makita, right? And you can see the ASIN gives me a Makita product. So what happens is Seller Assistant app checks the ASIN and says, hey, you know, you don't have approval to sell this ASIN. See, I have to apply to sell to get. I need approval. Approval is required. So because I need approval to sell this, it's probably because, most likely, it's because the brand is Makita. So what's going to happen is it's going to come up here, approval required. Approval required, right? And chances are, you know, I probably just can't sell this brand at all, but to verify it again, I can check the brand name, Makita, not Melita, Makita, right? And I can check other products and see I don't have approval. So this is a brand I'm not approved to sell, right? You see that I'm not approved to sell this brand. Okay, so that is the whole point of this, to be able to have something that can help me determine that mostly correct most of the time, right? This is good, so that saves me a ton of time, right? Here's another brand, Realcraft. Realcraft is coming up as allowed to sell. So, well, let's see if I'm allowed to sell Realcraft. Okay, Realcraft, new. Yep, I can sell it. And it based, how did it come up with that answer? It was based on this one ASIN, which I'm going to check. And you don't have to really check the ASIN, but it's just something that I'm doing more to prove a point. And you can see this is a Realcraft product. Okay? And we have approval to sell it. So that's why Seller Assistant app said, yes, you're allowed to sell. Okay? So basically, by just finding one ASIN of the brand, we're able to determine the approval of the whole brand. Okay? The approval level. That's basically the idea of this. Right? Because typically, if you're approved to sell one product in a brand, you're basically approved to sell the brand overall. That's normally how it works, right? Okay, and the only exception to that would be if the brand carries some type of product that is outside of your category of products that you can sell. That's the only way. But typically, with a lot of these brands that are industrial, scientific brands that we're looking at right now, pretty much that's all they have, right? Is that industrial category. So, you know, it's pretty much going to be approved or not approved for that whole brand, right? See, so this is all approved, okay? So, this is all just proving the point. Here we have 3 different ASINs of the same brand, and all 3 of them require approval, right? So, pretty strong chance in this case that I'm not approved. Okay, it's telling me for 3 different ASINs that it found say that I need approval. Okay, and as you can see, I don't have approval. Okay, all these different products of the brand. Right, so that is how this works. Okay, so really at this point, if we look at the steps, that is it. The Google Sheet, step 5 is really just reading the Google Sheet. Okay, the Google Sheet has told me which brands are approved to sell and which are not approved to sell. Right? So, what you can do here, if you just want the list of allowed to sell that you have found so far, at least, because remember, there's some that we haven't checked yet. We haven't checked the ASINs for these. We haven't found ASINs for the other brands yet. But if you just want to run with the ones you have right now, you can go to allowed to sell, turn the 0 off, leave the 1 on, and these are the ones that you have found so far that you're allowed to sell. and then you can take these brands and you work with them, right? Individually, checking them on your Seller Central, doing the usual research process that I have described in other videos, putting them in on Keepa to see what's going on with those brands. And I will have another video, which might be linked to this video, where I'm going to be explaining my, the main criteria that I look at with brands, and using Keepa, even if you just have a free Keepa, how you're going to check those brands for certain things. And so that would be like the next step, right? And then from there you can go on to find products. All right, so I think this is pretty big deal actually for product research, because if you have a list of brands and you can eliminate in bulk which ones you have approval to that require approval, and then you can pull up just the ones that you're most likely allowed to sell, that's powerful, right? Because that's time saving instead of individually having to figure out which ones you're allowed to sell or approved to sell. I did a very small number of products for this example, and you could have uploaded up to 1,000. Let's not forget. So I only did this many. You could have done up to 1,000 ASINs, which would have given you a lot more brands than this. So keep in mind, we could have even pulled up more brands than this. So anyway, that is the process. I'm not going beyond that point because that is the entire process of doing this particular thing, which is check-in brand approval for Amazon in bulk. And so if you have any comments, you have any questions, you have any suggestions, let me know. Do make sure, again, check the description of this video for links to get your list of the Zoro brands. Make sure you get a copy of this system so you can go ahead and check your brand approval in bulk. And make sure that you get signed up on Seller Assistant app and get a deal through my link, so that you can use the restriction checker to actually check the restrictions, of course. And then, if you're willing to do further research, which is in other videos, also Keepa is something else you should really strongly consider having as well. So there are links for all those different things in the video. And I look forward to either hearing from you. If you want to contact me directly, that's fine as well. Or if not, I'll see you around on the channel.